So, dear Teofil, I just introduced you as a Romanian theologian, blogger, and writer, and I said that you will introduce us the experience of Romanian Christians during totalitarian communist regime in your country. So now the floor is yours, and you might start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roman. I will start by sharing my screen. So I will start by saying that I'm not a specialist in this area, in this field, but I will try to offer an overview based on some readings that I mean, because I'm in this environment and I'm interested in finding more about the Christian legacy and evangelical, especially evangelical legacy in Romania. I did some readings in this area, and I will provide some, I think, important moments, key moments in the history of Romanian Christianity in the very beginning, but with a focus on that communist period that we, I think, all experienced in different ways and for shorter or longer periods of time. So I will start with some historical landmarks for the Romanian Orthodox Church, because the Romanian Orthodox Church is considered to be not the national church, although some of the leaders of the Orthodox Church tried to have this in the constitution or in some important laws in Romania, but finally they did not manage to obtain from the political sphere and from the political factors of decision. So they consider themselves to be the national church, but this is not something that we have in a law, in an official law. And the official narrative of the Romanian Orthodox Church is that Andrew, the apostle, Christianized this region of the world, especially in the Black Sea region, Scythia Minor, but there are no verified evidence for this narrative. Nevertheless, it continued to be important in affirming Romanian Christian identity. It's a problematic also, this narrative is problematic also because the Aurelian withdrawal, when the borders of the Romanian Roman Empire were established the Danube, and the Roman army withdrew to the south of the Danube. Nevertheless, there are some archaeological findings suggesting some sort of continuity of Christian communities at the north of the Danube River. And we have some cities, some archaeological artifacts that are from those centuries, the beginning centuries of the church. In the 9th century, there are some possible bishoprics in this area that were mentioned in some historical, ancient historical documents. In the 10th century, the Paleo-Slavic language was introduced in liturgy in these territories that are now Romania. And also there was a Reformation influence, especially in Transylvania, but not limited to that area, but all this influence was more in creeds and printed documents, like usually religious publications, and not so much in converts. And this is because the Reformation influence came through Hungarian and German people. So it was not very successful in terms of converting Romanians to Reformation belief. In the beginning of the 18th century, around 1700, we can trace the beginning of Romanian Greek Catholic Church in Transylvania, or the establishment of Romanian Greek Catholic Church. This is till now a huge debate, because at that moment some of the Romanian Orthodox were forced to become Greek Catholics in order to obtain rights in Transylvania. Nevertheless, this church is an important identity builder, especially or first in Transylvania, but in the next century, in the 19th century, these moved towards the other principalities of Romania in Moldavia and Wallachia. They emphasize the Latin origins of Romanians. And now we have these two connected, the Christian origin, starting with Andrew, with Apostle Andrew, and also the Latin origins of Romanians. Of course, these are disputable and debated tenets, but they are present in the official narrative of Romanian identity. In 1859, we had the unification of Moldavia and Wallachia. And in 1863, we had the secularization of Romanian Orthodox Church properties and monasteries. Romanian language became the official liturgical language, and some 20 years later, in 1985, the autocephaly of the Romanian Orthodox Church was recognized by the Ecumenical Patriarchate, but was still with a primate metropolitan, not with a patriarch. The patriarch was elected only in 1925. And the first one was Miron Cristea, who used to be the metropolitan in Transylvania before the Great Romania Kingdom unification in 1918. Some key moments for evangelical communities, and I don't know why one of my slides skipped altogether, because it was about Baptists, and I think they have something with Baptists. But for the Baptists, I will just tell you from my memory. The first Baptist church was established by the in the middle of the 19th century. I think in 1856, and was in German ethnic group in Bucharest. And first Romanian converts were somewhere around 1900s, at the beginning of the 20th century, and they were in 3 parts of the country simultaneously. In the western part, under the influence and witness of Hungarian ethnics, the first missionaries there were all Hungarians. In Bucharest, in a German ethnic environment, and also in the eastern part of the country, also by, I think, if I remember correctly, also the ethnic Germans were the first missionaries near Tulcea, close to the border with Ukraine today. For brethren, some key moments in their history. Oh, and I should mention that also by 1921, the Baptist Union was established, and soon after, the Baptist Institute in Bucharest was established also, with great support from CBS, SBC, Southern Baptist Convention. And through all the interwar period, this support was strong in Romania for Baptist communities. As for the brethren, the first community is around 1900s. They were recognized by the state as a religious association, but not as a denomination. We have in Romanian the word cult, which is similar with cult in English, but it's not the same. It's not. It is not something about sects, but the official recognized denomination or organization. So was just a religious association, which is less than a denomination, and they gained full recognition only in 1946. In 1960, two groups were forced to unite, Brethren and the so-called Tudorists, which was a reform group within the Romanian Orthodox Church. Pentecostals' first community was in Pauliș, Arad, near Arad, branching off from a Baptist church. They also have three important streams: Pauliș near Arad, Bucovina in the northeastern part of the country, under the influence of some converts that were in the First World War, some of them Ukrainians, some of them Russians, some of them Romanians ethnics. And also there was a community in German environment at Dârlos near Sibiu, Mediaș, in the central part of the country, but this was without much influence in the Romanian environment. In 1934, all the Pentecostal groups were banned by the state as sects. And in 1948, there was a failed attempt to obtain official recognition, but this failed because of the unwillingness to become one single Pentecostal organization. In interwar period, there were a lot of difficult times for evangelicals, especially, and I will just choose two moments: legionary movement, or the Iron Guard, as it was known. This had close ties with Orthodox priests, but not necessarily in the hierarchy. And when they were in power, they persecuted every religious denomination except the Romanian Orthodox Church. After the Iron Guard dismissal from the power, the Antonescu regime came in power. And in 1942, the Baptist seminar was closed, restarted at Buteni near Arad only in 1946. Pentecostal were persecuted, and they have no official recognition yet. also steered. 1948, The Dark Sun Rises. This is the title I choose. This is the moment when the communists came in power. And this is the year when they changed the laws regarding religious activities and religious denominations. The religion was excluded from school curricula. Greek Catholic Church was dissolved altogether based on so-called voluntary and spontaneous transfer of its member. They were 1.5 million at that time to the Romanian Orthodox Church. And all the properties were seized, taken by the state, or offered to the Romanian Orthodox Church. This problem was not solved until now fully. Only in some parts of the country there was some kind of reconciliation, but the problem is still there. Patriarch Nicodemus, who died in that year, was replaced by Justinian Marina, sometimes called the Red Patriarch of Romania, a priest who helped the haunted communist leader Gheorghe Gheorghiu Dej, I think 4 years before, in 1944, when Gheorghiu Dej was trying to escape the Secret Service in that time. Priests and monks from Greek Catholic Church and Romanian Orthodox Church were arrested if they did not obey, excommunicated, and in this case also with the support of the officials of the church, and persecuted by the Stalinist regime from Bucharest. In this year was established so-called Departamentul Cultelor. I tried to translate it as a denominations department, an institution that was set up to bring all the religious activity under the Communist Party's control, and also after the Secret Service control. Some attitudes towards churches, open persecution, especially but not exclusively against Greek Catholic Church, Orthodox priests that refused to collaborate with the new regime, Catholic priests, evangelical and Protestant leaders. Controlling and centralizing strategies. Fewer theological Orthodox seminars and faculties were allowed to function. A small number of students in every faculty, and a neo-Protestant federation was established in the same period, I think in the 1950, also to centralize and to have to control easier these different denominations. Another attitude was that of exclusion of religion from public space and from all public discourses. We did not have so much church demolitions or this kind of how to call it, destructive attitude, but there were still, for example, in 10 years between 1977, after an important earthquake that took place in Romania and affected especially Bucharest and other cities. Some 20 churches and monasteries were demolished under the pretext that they were not safe anymore because of the earthquake. But even before, some of them were also demolished. But this was not so aggressive as in other countries. Of course, censorship and also day-by-day acts of harassment, discrimination, abuses, and so on. Attitudes of the churches, how the churches reacted to that. Open opposition, in different manners, and I will come to this later a little bit. Subversion and underground activities, collaboration or accommodation, and also in some instances full support, especially from the part of the leaders that were installed by the communist regime. Some of them officers of the Securitate, the Secret Service, but others were supporting out of their convictions, because some of the evangelicals, for example, confused at that time the communist idea of having everything in common and sharing everything and not having properties and so on, confused that idea with the church, with the church at the very beginning, especially in Acts when they shared properties and so on. And they were so excited that this was now becoming a reality for us also. Some important moments in the communist period, the 50s, but this was not limited to that period, but the 50s were especially the years with huge arresting waves, political leaders, religious leaders, everyone that was considered to be opponent or to be potentially dangerous for the system was arrested in those dark years. In 1964, the amnesty, this took place after the Red Army withdrawal. And this was a policy that Gheorghiu Dej and the Communist Party initiated partially in their attempt to depart, to separate from the Soviet influence. In 1951, the so-called July thesis issued by Ceausescu initiated a cultural revolution after a Chinese model, but also it was influenced by Stalinist way of thinking. So it's considered a neo-Stalinist offensive in the Romanian culture and society, and a lot of consequences were part of that cultural revolution, and the 70s and the 80s actually were under this sign of cultural revolution, and we consider that period the gray years of nationalist communism, with poverty, control, censorship, closing borders, new wave of persecution, and so on. But some unlikely events took place in this period. The official recognition of the Pentecostal movement forced to unite in one organization, in a single organization out of three. This took place in 1960s when a new law was issued for the denominations, for Christian, for religious organizations and denominations. In 1996, the inauguration of the Pentecostal Institute in Bucharest took place. Before that, they did not have any official form of theological education. So it's interesting that in the dark 70s, this institution was inaugurated. Between 1972 and 1974, and in the years after, a great revival took place in my hometown in Oradea, and this was led by Liviu Olah, well-known pastor in Romania now because of that. and was continued by Joseph Tson or Joseph Tson. In 1985, Billy Graham visited countries behind the Iron Curtain, and he was in Romania, and some interesting events took place there: ecumenical encounterings, street preaching in more than 7 cities, visits to Moldavian monasteries. But this event is it continues to be disputed. It was considered a compromise because the personal counselor of Billy Graham refused to see the realities in Romania, the persecution that evangelicals were that was started by the state, by the institute, by the secret services, by the political power against evangelicals in Romania. Some underground activities. Greek Catholic Church continued to exist fully underground, and it emerged back in 1990 after the fall of the communism. Peddlery networks. I don't know. I think that you all are familiarized with this kind of activities, but I'll just give you 2 examples. There was a leader, a Christian leader in this area where I live, and he was in a village, and he had a car, a Dacia. It was basically some of the few cars that you could buy in that period. We had also Lada or Trabant. So in that old Dacia, he would travel from village to village to do some, I don't know, he was a carpenter or something like that. And every time he would take one of his kids, I think he had 9 or 10, on the backseat of the car. And the kid would always sleep. And then all the time that when militia, that was the name of the police at that time, stopped him, the policeman would see a kid sleeping on the backseat, and under the backseat, this guy always carried Bibles, Christian literature, and so on. And another example, clothes in the bathtub. A friend of mine told me the story that her mother had a huge bag of Bibles, and I think that Secret Service somehow found out that they had in their house some illegal literature, and they pay a visit to that lady, and the kids were there, and they were not aware why their mother was rushing to do the laundry and put all the clothes in the bathtub. But she was hiding that bag with Bibles under the clothes in bathtub. Christian education in summer camps and in home study groups. Navigators started to come to Romania after 1975, and there have a lot of activities here. Yeah. Also, ex-convicts like Richard Wurbrand or Constantin Karaman started fellowship and training groups. Training, when I say training, I mean they trained Christian leaders how to oppose Securitate and how to oppose their strategies of intimidations and persecutions. Also, we had some migration networks that help especially evangelicals to cross the borders, and underground evangelism. Heroes and martyrs. 12 Greek Catholic bishops were deposed in 1948, none of them defeated by the system. Some, I think 7 of them are now in the beatification process in the Catholic Church. Orthodox priests, Protestant pastors, and other Christian leaders like Mina Dobzeu, Ioan Iovan, Richard or Richard Wurmbrand, Ferenc Vishki, Constantin Karaman, all went through dark years of prison, but without being defeated by the regime. Moisescu group, this is a very interesting group around a guy that was had a lot of education and was interested in studying pyramids and a lot of other things, but also was a fervent believer. Some of the evangelical leaders were killed, and not only evangelicals, but I will just use this example because it's more close to me. They were killed by communists, Radu Cruceru, Ioan Clipa, Vasile German, and usually their death was a car accident or something like that. The official opposition in 1973, the letters or memoir of the 50s, 50 Christian leaders, not only evangelicals, signed a letter to the official leadership of the country. In 1977, the memoir of Neo-Protestant denominations and human rights in Romania. In 1978, the Romanian Christian Committee for Defending Freedom of Religion and Conscience. In 1982, another. In 1985 and in 1989. The communist regime and their persecution against Christian believers in Romania had part, I mean, yeah, I will rephrase that. So the communist regime and the strategies of Securitate and Secret Service were exposed by some important Christian leaders in that managed to escape from the country, and who were in the Western countries. In 1966, Richard Wurmbrand was in front of U.S. Congress, and there are some images if you browse on internet when he just took off his shirt, showing them the scars that he still had because of the tortures in the communist prison. In 1981, Iosif Tson was forced to leave the country, and starting from that point, he would preach at Radio Free Europe every Sunday at 2 o'clock. This was like second religious service for me in my childhood, because after we came back from the church, we ate something, and after that we listened to Iosif Tson preaching about the fall of the communism and evangelizing through television, and having great gatherings on stadiums and so on. And nobody believed that, but he was very persistent in affirming that the communist regime will fall soon. In 1985, Gheorghe Calciu Dumitriasa was also forced to leave the country. He is a survivor of the so-called Pitești phenomenon. This is a very cruel phenomenon, cruel experiment that took place in a prison in Pitești, not far from Bucharest, I mean 100 kilometers from there. And this actually the experiment consisted in making prisoners to become tormentors. So he was a victim of that experiment, but he survived, and later on, he started to preach against the communist regime fervently, and he was imprisoned again. And after he was released, he was forced to leave the country. But from there, he started to denounce the communist regime. And I will close to the conclusion. The aftermath. The enthusiastic and romantic period, these were the 90s, when a lot of interesting activities took place. Stadium crusades, Luis Palau was invited in Romania at that time, nationwide events, Youth Forum in Oradea 1995, and a lot of people were part of these. I mean, few thousand youth leaders and so on. New schools of theology were established or reopened after the fall of the communism. But the great exposure after the, I mean, yeah, in the beginning of the 21st century, after 2000, we had access to the files of the collaborators, informers, and so on. And the Baptists and their attempt to instrumentalize the moment was a very, how to call it, very bad decision to do this. We call it deconspiration in Romania. We want to find out who was what, who collaborated, who was informers, who were the informers, and so on. But the Baptists tried to use this as a weapon in some of the congresses that were in that period. The Orthodox Church decided at some point that they will ban the access to the archives. And the reason, official reason, was that the state should let the church to take care of its affairs. But the real reason was that they did not wanted the press and the public to have access to the archives. There were some public confessions and scandals, but this decision of the Orthodox Church basically closed the way to the archives for the press and for the public. There were some Catholic unpleasant surprises because they were persecuted, but some of them collaborated with the regime and were informers, and some of the leaders, of course. The Pentecostals kind of stop somewhere at the half of the process. There was a book that was better than the Baptist attempt, but the promised sequel never come to be published. A tentative taxonomy was issued by Vasile Talos, a pastor from the Romanian Baptist Union, and one of those that opposed the regime. And he proposed these categories: tormentors, delators, blackmailed or enticed by privileges, and delators subdued by violence. But I think nobody used actually this taxonomy, although this would be useful. The strange case of Iosif Țon and Petre Dugulescu, these were two famous pastors in Romania, but both of them had ties with Securitate. At some point, they were collaborators. Unfortunately, they were not open about this after the fall of the communism, and only after 2000, when the archives were opened, they officially recognized, but only when they were forced to, when they had no other option. So this kind of affected their public image and their important role, because they were also opposing the regime, but this was diminished by their could we call it dishonest strategy of not recognizing publicly their period of collaboration. So we have a problematic, morally problematic legacy. Who was what in that period? Heroes of faith or political resistance? This is the case of the priests that were part of Iron Guard. Were they heroes of faith or just political prisons that were suffering not from faith reason but political? Who is in charge in different churches now? This is a question that we cannot answer in Romanian context because we do not know who was what in that period. Only in few cases it's clear who was what. Who is to judge and how and when? This is also an unanswered question for our context. And this, by the way of consequences, affects the Christian witness in the society, because every time something happens, the press would bring that issue again and again. You are not transparent with your past. This is something that they reproach to the, especially to the Romanian Orthodox Church, but this is also something that could be said about the evangelical churches, in spite their tentative effort to open the archives. So here I will stop and I will stop share my screen. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Teofil, for such a deep and comprehensive presentation. Really was quite a good introduction. We are almost out of time for your presentation, but still, if there is a question, I'd like to encourage participants, if you have a question, we would have a time for one question. You might raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Yeah, Andrei, please. That's a question from Croatian colleague.
Well, if no one else wants to, I have a question. I didn't really understand. You were mentioning the Billy Graham visit in 1985. You mentioned something with the secret police, a mistake. I didn't really catch what exactly happened during this visit. What was the problem? I didn't really understand what you were
Billy
trying to say.
Billy Graham was invited here by evangelicals, but also by Orthodox leaders. And when we visited Romania, some evangelical leaders tried to get him somehow and to make him aware that the evangelicals especially are persecuted in Romania. But this was the Secret Service was joining him almost everywhere he went through the country, and they kind of prevent this to happen. And his personal counselor did not admit that there is a persecution in Romania. And some of the researchers say that he did this on purpose. It was not something that he was not aware of, but something that he wanted to avoid in order to secure his visit to Billy Graham's visit to Romania. And when Billy Graham went home, he was kind of praising the religious freedom in Romania and in other countries in the Eastern Bloc. So this is what some Romanian researchers consider to be problematic in his visit.
Yes, thank you, Teofil. Unfortunately, time is over. Oля, you have a question?
Yes, if I may.
Sorry for being so long. It is.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's okay. We started a few minutes later, so Teofil, thank you so much for your great presentation and deep reflections on that. I see it's very important, especially during the full-scale war, how these deep scars of totalitarianism affect the church and its thinking of being obedient to the government and really taking long to step in. My question is, like, how is a church in Romania responding to the totalitarianism, or what was the process of healing, and just looking more at democratic ways to coexist with everyone and heal from totalitarianism in different ways, including the ways of interaction in the church?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I think it's a very, it opens up a large set of topics. There was not a healing process officially. And unofficially, it depends of the local leader. But officially, there was not a healing process, and some of the disputes that were started by the communist regime interference in the church are still there, but they took another shape now. Also, there were those that oppose openly the regime. There were those that collaborated, and a large portion of people were indifferent to the regime. Now they look back to the communist regime and they are nostalgic about it. And they, especially after Romania was admitted in European Union, they started to look back at that period and say, you know, when we were persecuted, we were more fervent believers. We were more strong in affirming our faith and so on. So they kind of go back to that because they refused to know, or they were not, I don't know, they did not, in Romanian environment, in evangelical circles at least, we do not have this exercise of learning our own history. So we tend to repeat it. Now we have a lot of admirers in evangelical circles, admirers of Putin, of Viktor Orban, of Donald Trump, and so on. People that are, you know, kind of
tend to for the strong hand.
Strong hand. So they have this nostalgia for strong hand leaders. And in churches, you can see also these. We have the word tatuk, which is like a father. So we have this orientation towards these strong leaders that are in church and empower and control everything and know everything. And it's one-man show, basically.
Yeah, if I may, just a short question, Roman, sorry, and Andre. Teofil, with opening the archives, was there a problem that for some church union leaders or church leaders, as we know during the Soviet time, they were involved in KGB work and had taken the position of pastor? Was there a dispute of not opening some archives or keeping the silence to protect the names of some church leaders, and how Romania dealt with that?
The Baptist leaders weaponized this. Some of them that were supposedly strongly opposing the regime used this to how you call that, to start a war against those that were so-called collaborators, but without having necessarily all the proofs and without judging these according to the circumstances. I mean, some of the leaders were also collaborators, but at some point decided not to collaborate anymore and started opposing the regime. So they don't have these nuances. They only use this to build their own status and to win the elections, because the book that was based on the archives was released exactly before Baptist Union Congress in Bucharest. And the guys from Oradea use it to fight the guys from Bucharest and people that were competing in the elections. So it was not a process that it was not at all a process targeted to reconciling and to find out the truth, or to I don't know, to obtain some confession and to create an environment where the confession was possible and the healing process to be possible. Nothing like that, just weaponizing and fighting each other.
Yeah, thank you for answering. Yeah, I have many questions. I hope that one day we will have more time to have a discussion on that. Thank you, Teofil.
Thank you.
We will continue conversation on next seminars, because the main goal of this seminar was kind of to look back to see the past, and we are going to continue this important conversation. So thank you for this interaction.